Hey, pull up a chair. We're so glad to have you join us here on the Backporch Education Podcast. For the next half hour or so, we're going to talk about all things educational. It's a wonderful day to learn something. Glad you could join us.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. This is our last episode of this season. So, Robert Frost, of course, is on deck for us to hear from him today. This amazing
we could have
poem.
gone with Earth, Wind, and Fire. We could have gone with maybe even Dylan, either Bob Dylan or Dylan Thomas. But no.
Dylan Thomas.
You pull out the Bob Frost.
Yeah. I like Bob Dylan a lot. And he did win the Nobel Prize in Literature recently. So he's not without literary merit.
But it's Robert Frost.
He's not Robert Frost. Yeah, come on.
All right.
All right. So this one's called The Strong Are Saying Nothing. The soil now gets a rumpling soft and damp, and small regard to the future of any weed. The final flat of the hoe's approval stamp is reserved for the bed of a few selected seed. There is seldom more than a man to a harrowed piece. Men work alone, their lots plowed far apart, one stringing a chain of seed in an open crease, and another stumbling after a halting cart. To the fresh and black of the squares of early mold, the leafless bloom of a plum is fresh and white, though there is more than a doubt if the weather is not too cold for the bees to come and serve its beauty aright. Wind goes from farm to farm in wave on wave, but carries no cry of what is hoped to be. There may be little or much beyond the grave, but the strong are saying nothing until they see. So maybe a little bit more pensive than we're going to be for the rest of the episode, Steve. But, I thought the strong are saying nothing, so let's get talking, kind of,
Yeah. Being weak men ourselves, let's get nice and loud. Well, I think this episode's about what you've already mentioned, that it is the last episode of what has been quite a year's worth of episodes. We publish every other week, and 52 weeks of the year provides us with 26. We threw in a bonus, and this is actually our 27th episode. We published 2 at Christmas time, just to rejoice.
That's right.
So it's great. It's a great day to be alive and be recording with you out here on the back porch. Sun is shining and the breeze is blowing, and it's a great moment to just sit and kind of look back over the conversations we've had this year, and if we have time, take a peek into the future, and of course do what we do almost every episode, and that's try and get serious about getting some of our listeners to join into the conversation as well, and make some comments. I know we have a lot of things to talk about, so what stands out to you as we get going? What have we talked about already that you're kind of looking back with fondness? And we of course have the look of creators. We've created things and now recognize every one of them could have been better, but that's just part of this world. So
yeah. No, I mean, I'm looking back at the episode list now. I don't know, man. It was a lot of fun. I'm thinking about the jokes that we made that at least you and I thought were funny. The different topics that we covered, and the growth that we've seen. I don't know, man. Like I look back at our sort of like what is education and our virtue episodes. Yeah. And I think those were cool. They were good. I like that. The virtue thing in particular. I don't know. That's kind of more my speed. Like I like reading that stuff and talking about that stuff.
I think it I think there's a
Yeah,
longing
yeah, yeah,
to
for
see
sure.
more of that and less of the data-driven factory outlet notion of education.
Mm,
The book that
yeah.
keeps wandering around in my mind is what causes schools today to feel like prisons to students, and I think it is this lack of nobility that they're just putting in
Hmm.
time rather than becoming good
Hmm.
people. And so yeah, I think the virtue stuff. I think we've talked a lot in the past year about the busyness of school and maybe how to slow it down a little bit and how to focus on the important things. We did an episode on educational basics, uh, given the fact that education at the present moment seems to be about getting things done. We more recently did something on Pieper's
Hmm.
leisure being the basis of culture. Um, I think that that's an important theme, not just because Pieper said so, but because experience tells me that students, I think there are classes they come out of feeling like, well, we got a lot done. And then there's other classes that come out of going, man, that was different. That was an experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been cool. It's been fun to like kind of see that happen. I saw that happening with us, like with you and I, or with you and me. Um, in even in this, right? So some of the episodes that we did, whatever. I mean, I'm proud of all of them. I'm proud that we made it, through a year. But there are some episodes that seem to like touch on higher things that I remember with more fondness than than some of the others. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm looking at Magister or Minister, and I'm thinking about how that really felt good. Like that was like really evaluative, right? Like value, like finding value and questioning the role of the teacher, discovery, like there, I don't know, I just felt like there was a lot going on there. So I haven't listened to that episode in a long time, but at least the conversation, I remember thinking, oh man, that was awesome. Like I really enjoyed Steve's input on that, like that
Well,
dialogue.
and I think that part of the blessing, the feast of a first year of this kind of thing is that we've kind of just wandered around our fields,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's a buffet, right? Like
Yeah,
everything's
this
open,
interests
just
both of
go
us to
for
talk
it.
about it, and I think we still want to do that. But I am looking forward to
Mhm.
and want to make the first of many plugs today for honest, real, substantive feedback from our listeners. Not just what did you think of what we did, but what would you like us to do? What do you wish there was a podcast on? Because that's one of the most fascinating things to me about the school within a school, and by that I mean the faculty of a school becoming its own school and teaching each other, is that we're all, if we're truly teachers, we have something baking. You know, there's something going on in our own intellectual lives
Yeah.
that that almost invariably is fascinating to other people interested in intellectual lives. You know, the interested in thoughts and ideas, and so when you just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
ask around at the lunch table or whatnot, what you're reading or what you're doing or what you're thinking about or what's got you, with your eyebrows sewn together. The the responses are sometimes just fascinating to me, and uh, we talk before we
Mhm.
hit the record button back here on the back porch, and there's always stuff going on, and so that's a lot of what conversation is finding the connections between. That's the fascinating thing, not just about teaching and learning. It fascinates me how what I'm teaching adds and interplays with what I'm learning on my own. I'm reading a book at home and it comes into the classroom with me, if you know what I
Right.
mean.
No, dude, come on. I love that. Yeah, you could talk about that all day, or I could. I mean, I think that's huge. That just this everything is everything else, right? Or it's not, but it's connected. And so I don't think that I think that the divisions of knowledge, while helpful, are um, fake,
uh,
right?
dangerous.
That they're
Yeah,
imposed, right? It doesn't exactly. If all knowledge comes from God, then it's a bunch of different ways of getting at the
yeah.
same
It's
thing, right?
it's a harmonious symphony, not a discordant enmity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good.
and
Yeah,
it, so even and right now I teach pretty much all of most of my life taught within the humanities, but right now pretty much teaching English. I've had some history and some theology in the past, and there for a while, starting out, I taught 6 hours a day. 3 hours were theology, and 3 hours were science. And some people thought that that would be
yeah.
very schizophrenic for me. It fascinated me how often, especially when I was teaching a sixth, seventh, and eighth grade Bible and a sixth, seventh, and eighth grade science class. So I'd have each kid twice a day, and something would come up in science class, say
Hmm.
sixth grade or science class, that would then find its way into our sixth grade Bible class later on in the day. Not because I'm not because I'm
Sure.
planning it,
Oh, dude,
but
that's
because the
great.
students are going, oh, well, that's so we were talking first hour about this in science class, and I'm like, huh, I hadn't drawn that
Yeah.
connection. That's cool.
No, that's great. When you have kids that are that you're teaching multiple subjects to, and sort of a couple hours later, you'd said something in the morning, and then you're talking again, explaining something, and they go, "Now wait a minute, you said
Yep,
in
yep,
this
yep.
other class," and you, it's a way to sort of really keep you honest, right? Like, wait a minute, I'm a person, and I'm teaching people. Like, this
Yep.
isn't a data dump thing.
Right.
Like, we're becoming more or less human based on what we're doing here. You
Well,
know.
even over years, right? If you teach the same student at several different years, you
Mm,
know. So
yes.
for a while, I was teaching a freshman level course called Introduction to Intellectual Life, which is just like a open book, right?
Yeah.
Anything's fair game in that class, and I took full advantage of it. And I, of course,
That's amazing.
recognized that I, on a regular basis, shot off some of the ammo I really should have saved for later on. But
Right.
but then like I taught my current seniors that class 4 years ago, and occasionally one will go, "Well, back in intellectual life, you said, or didn't we read, or," and so then so it's across the curriculum and along the curriculum.
Mm,
And I
cool.
think that that's, I don't know if you and I have the minds necessary for it, but it seems to me that in anything like this podcast, certainly if somebody were to binge listen, and please do, it would be a delightful, what probably take you a weekend to do it right now. But if you
Yeah.
listen to this first,
Road
yeah,
trip.
yeah, that's right. Go on the road, cross country, and we'll go with you. Um,
Yeah.
if you went episodes 1 through 27, we're going to be repeating ourselves.
Hmm.
There's certain principles that are going to come back around because there are driving principles. But I hope also that there's a weaving so that when we're talking, for instance, about the future of education and a definition of education and the basics of education and how questions are used in education and you get in boredom in the classroom, etc.,
Right.
that it is woven together in something of a meaningful truth net,
Yeah.
as opposed to, while they only have one thing to say.
Right.
I hope that's not the case, or they have no
Right.
idea what they're saying. I
Sometimes
sometimes true.
true.
Um, I hope that there's a curricula, a path being trodden that results in things coming out on a regular basis that connect, not just with that one moment, but with, I guess, the point of the podcast, if we could say it that way.
Hey, during this brief break, I wanted to encourage you to use the share buttons we have on our website in order to help us get folks tuned into the show. Our goal is to encourage as many educators, homeschoolers, NFL punters, and donut makers as we can with these podcasts. So help us get the word out. Share our Facebook page, send folks a link to one of your favorite episodes. Do whatever you can to help us share this craziness with either your best friends or, if it's more appropriate, your worst enemies. We will love you all the more for sharing our love. Thanks. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, I think weaving is a really good metaphor, Steve, for what I think we're doing here. I don't know. I know a guy who thinks that all conversation is weaving. And so I think we're in good company, in that metaphor.
Yeah.
But as I look back on it, I do want to make this sort of explicit. We are weaving this big thing, and it is super fun. Part of the fun for me is that we don't know exactly what we're creating, right? Like we do have a direction that we're heading, but I don't know exactly where we're going or how we're going to get there. I just know how to get there. And so this podcast has been a lot of fun for me because I feel like I'm learning as much as anybody.
Right. There's a selfishness to it that I don't think is. There's a selfishness to any teaching that
Yeah,
I used to
totally.
kind of, I guess, feel maybe a little guilty about, and then I was like, why? It's what it's for. Enjoy it, and I've never felt guilty. No, I felt guilty about other things, but yeah, it is fun and it is selfish, but we hope it's useful. And what Jason said about planning, we do, toss back and forth ideas, and usually don't have much of an outline to begin with. We provide outlines afterwards, maybe to help people follow our wandering. I'm not always sure that the outlines are actually outlines of what we say, but maybe it's just a further ploy to confuse you all. But we do look forward. We hope to another year. We've got some plans developing. Maybe shake things up on the programmatic side of things. We talked about maybe a shift in music. We've enjoyed the first couple of episodes where we've done Have You Seen and Have You Read? Yeah,
those
and I
were
think there'll be
fun.
some more of that. It's I think that's some of the best conversation is when two receptors are talking together about an artifact, a book or a piece of art or a song or movie. And Jason doesn't know any movies, and I know lots of them. So
That's true. Guys, that's totally true. I just don't know any of the
so
movies.
that makes it really easy for me and very difficult for poor Jason. But
no, it's good.
It's a great way, I think, to get into education. We probably would keep the books and movies, and we've even talked about maybe inviting some friends onto the back porch. It seems, I mean, in real life, that's what we do. We have a lot of friends over and have all kinds of engaging conversations. So you might hear some strange voices among us in the coming year. We would love to do a question and answer session from the audience or whatnot. So don't be afraid about letting us know what you think and what you would like to think about.
Yeah. I think that would be a good thing actually for us to kind of streamline how we're going to hear from the audience and like it. So saying like, hey guys, drop us a comment or whatever. like they always say on YouTube. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, I think. But, like saying, okay, if everyone knows this is exactly where it is,
Yep.
that would
Well, at the
be
present
a good
moment,
thing.
the two best ways to make comments, we have a website that hosts the podcast itself. And of course, if you listen to us through uh, Apple Podcast or Stitcher, we're on Castbox. Probably in the coming year, we're going to show up on YouTube. Still just be an audio, but we think it's another venue we can make use of. YouTube, of course, has a place for comments. Those other places don't, but the
True.
website, Backporch Education Podcast website, um, has places for comments. And then Facebook. I honestly think Facebook is probably the most dynamic way to interact. There's a an announcement, an event posted for each new podcast, and when it comes out, and of
Hmm.
course it's rather easy to make comments and post on the wall and all that kind of stuff. It's easy to get in touch with us through Facebook. And it, of course, has the added benefit of immediately making one of us aware that somebody's made a comment so that it doesn't just sit.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It
So
pings me, right?
we try to be quick in our responses, especially if it's in any way we can help. We're looking into ways to make more resources available other than just our voices. Um, not necessarily just books, but we regularly mention books. We want to try and make it possible for you to get your hands on those books and know you're getting the books that we're suggesting to you. Um, I would love recommendations for Jason's poetry.
Oh, come on.
You
I'm
do
doing a
good.
great.
You do a
I
good.
think, as I kind of look through the kind of everything we've done, the one area that I would say doesn't need any improvement at all is my selection of poems. There,
Notice he's not including my selection of a couple of things in that.
no,
So
no, my selection of poems. I mean, I think I pretty much nail it every single time. So, I think we're good there. No, for real though. Steve, I've mentioned to you, I don't know if you remember, but I've mentioned to you the idea of reading some longer stuff.
yep.
Um,
Well,
especially like, well, the one everybody, hey, here it comes. Build Soil. Guess who it's by? Robert Frost, of course. Um, it's long, and I'd like to do that just as a standalone episode because it's a dialogue. It's two um, what do you call those guys? Shepherds. Two
mhm.
shepherds talking. So oh man, it's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, poetry needs some, or could use some, retooling, whatever. I'm open for that changing.
No, that's just pure grief on my part to you, man. You
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
fine job. Um,
Thank you.
so anything we've talked about you wanted to mention, Jason? We that's the thing is that we talk about a lot of stuff. I hope we only do the really really good stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we got an exciting year coming forward.
Yeah, we do. And I think that's kind of like you just rattled off a bunch of stuff that I think we need to take seriously and kind of work through and make available and streamline and just get better at that whole side of it. Um, and I'm excited about doing that. Uh, and again, everybody, we're super open to feedback on that because we don't know what we're doing.
Well, there the cat's
um,
out of the bag now.
yeah, exactly. We might as well come out
After
with
a
it.
whole year of
Um,
pretending, we finally
right, right. But it's just been, yeah. I mean, I'm tickled to death that we have made it this far and that we show no signs of slowing down. That we're having as much fun now as when we first started, and we're getting better at it. So, as I look back. Um, I don't know. It seemed I was sort of trying to just write a sentence or just express really succinctly what it is that we've been doing. Um, and that's probably like a good thing for me to go ahead and carry out, like actually do. But one of the things that I noticed in that was how um, we've resisted being programmatic, I think, to a certain extent. And I think that that's been good. Like the tips, whatever, the stuff that you might pick up, it kind of seems like there's no telling where it would come from. Um, I guess I'm wandering a bit here, but I think what I'm trying to say is, in the beginning, we were pretty intentional about trying to include practical stuff. And as I have listened to those episodes, I've actually found other things that weren't in the sort of practical section that were of more use to me. And I think that's good. That we've sort of used the form to begin with, but then we've grown out of it maybe
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah,
and I think that's been to our
I've
benefit.
always delight that my seminar class ends the year working through a series of essays from the collection of essays by G.K. Chesterton called Heretics. And in one of his essays, he makes the comment, because if you know anything about Chesterton, he always kind of sticks his thumb in the eye of the modern man. He says, somebody would think it
Hmm.
strange
Hmm.
if you made a gesture and the sun fell out of the sky. I think it's strange that the sun doesn't fall out of the sky. And I was thinking about that with my students here recently, and I was like, well, that's our podcast. Here we are
Yeah.
a year in, and we haven't blown anything up yet, as far as I know. I have
Right.
no idea what
Yeah.
damage we've caused out there. I just I just know that
Well, the stock
things
market's up. I
hey,
mean, everything's
things must
fine.
be kept in their proper place.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, we can't really take much credit for everything being good
yeah,
still. Like we're just kind of messing around. But okay, I'll see your Chesterton and I'll raise you Lewis. I do hope that we're at least playing by the ocean and not, making
yeah.
mud pies in the backyard. Even though this is the back porch. Well, okay, so maybe yeah, I'm mixing metaphors,
No, that
but
that that piece
um,
from Lewis has always, to me, been very. Yeah, I hope it's true about our podcast. I hope it's true in most people's minds about education, right? That that we think it's about
mhm.
grades and all this little padiddly stuff, and it's really an invitation from the living God to come be amazed by Him. You know, he how
Yeah.
does he put it? We piddle about with sex and power and drunkenness, ignoring the invitation to be with the living God. we, yeah, it's
Mhm. Yeah,
Pascal. Can we go to
exactly.
Pascal from there?
Well, no, and,
The
and
God-shaped
so
hole. We keeps trying to
yeah,
stick stuff in
that's
this
true.
hole in our heart that only something in the shape of God would fill. That's I hope that's true
Hmm.
every day, not just of podcast or my teaching, but of life, right? That it's a constant
Yeah.
pursuit, and what I often forget when I'm pursuing him is that he's already been pursuing me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
True that. Good. Well, Steve, do we have anything that we need to apologize for?
Yeah. Well, uh,
I'm looking back. I'm trying to think. No, I guess maybe not. I think that we're.
to whatever extent we may have offended, please know that we seek to make amends. I can't say it near as well as Shakespeare, but if I could get a hold of that ending little speech from Midsummer's Night's Dream, that would be the way to end it, right? That If we've said anything amiss, put your hands together and we shall bid you adieu for
Right.
now. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. So with brand new
Right.
season of education thoughts and filaments of ideas and stigments of our imagination and all kinds of new words that we can invent.
Yeah, Jabberwocky over here.
Fortunately, one of us is an editor.
That's right.
Now we'll be back with an exciting new season, and would love to get your input on this season and the season to come, and invite a few friends. Maybe they'll enjoy it as much as you do.
I think, sort of in closing, it needs to be said quite clearly. If you have made it this far, thank you so much.
God bless
We
you.
really appreciate you
Yeah,
listening.
we do. We do.
Well, thanks again for joining us in this great conversation about education. We hope you will not just listen, but participate. Leave us a comment, suggestion, or thought on our website. You just never know when we'll use it on the show. Until next time, pursue joy and learn something.